I've been playing a lot of beta Minecraft recently, and I have some thoughts about it. This video isn't scripted, I kinda just want to talk about old Minecraft for a minute. Because as much as I love the modern game, I really do, there's something about those older versions that just isn't quite matched. I'm not saying one is better than the other, I like them both for different reasons. In fact, I'd say I'd like the modern game a bit more because of its amenities. But there's something to be said about the simplicity of the beta versions of the game. You know, the lack of hunger, the limited block palette, stuff like that. I don't know, maybe I'm just nostalgic, but like it resonates with me in a way that modern Minecraft doesn't. The modern game, despite what some older players might say about it, I think is pretty good. The new terrain generation and updated textures make the game look a lot nicer and double down on the aesthetic that I think the original game was going for, but couldn't quite achieve at the time with one sole developer. Modern amenities like sprinting and enchantments build on the great foundation that Minecraft already had in a way that I really appreciate. But we're not here to talk about the current game, we're here to talk about the beta versions of the current game. Because under all those modern additions is a game that I believe, at its core, is flawless as far as sandbox games go, and I'd say playing the beta versions makes you more aware of that than ever. The absolute simplicity means there's no distraction between you and the primary objectives of the game. Speaking of, there are very few primary objectives. The world is what you make it completely. No ender dragon to fight, no wither, no generated structures to explore, just pure, unadulterated survival creativity. Heck, even getting diamonds, something that at the time was touted as one of the hardest things to do in the game, by modern standards, can be done within the first hour. It really takes no time at all to grind to get the best stuff possible. And once you have it, then that opens the door to allow you to more easily express yourself and do things that a simple grind could never get you. Want to build a castle on that hill? Go for it. You want to build a wheat farm 1,000 blocks wide? You can do that too. Despite all of its obvious limitations compared to the modern version, the only real limitation is your own imagination. Even the block palette for the time is limited, but insanely versatile. You want to build something out of stone? Stone or cobblestone? Would you like a rough stone texture, or would you like a smooth stone texture? You want to build out of wood? Logs or planks? Those are your two choices. Sand? Sand. Glass? One singular glass type, not even panes. And while at first this may seem like you're lacking a lot, you sure are, but the blocks that you have can make just about any structure you could imagine. Speaking of those blocks that you have to pick from, let's talk about the textures on them, because I think that's another discussion. A lot of people tout modern Minecraft as having the better of the two aesthetics between it and its old counterpart, and I think, while not done by a professional texture artist or anything like that, there certainly was a vision in mind for Minecraft's textures. And it's a vision I greatly value. It's very simple, it's usable, and it looks alright. I won't say that it looks great, because to some it does. To some, this is perfect, this is ideal, this is exactly how the game should look. I personally think the modern textures are a light improvement, but it definitely sets the mood, these older textures. It definitely sets the aesthetic in play for Minecraft as a whole. It adds to the, if you'll mind the pun, cobbled together nature of the old versions of the game, where it makes it evident that, like, this is somebody's project. Someone has done this. This is an indie hit game. This is what I expect from, like, a rough around the edges indie game about creativity. The modern one, while a little bit better in my opinion, just kind of, like, has a more sanitized appeal, which, again, can look really good, but it just does not generate the same feeling that these textures do. I think everyone can agree, regardless of their opinion on which sets of textures are better, that they both create a different vibe while somehow still being the same thing, if that makes sense. Because, like, when it comes to the textures, I think it's pretty night and day, the comparison. And sure, these textures are still available in the newer version. Like, you can switch over to the old textures at any time using the programmer art texture pack. But, like, even then, I don't feel like it quite looks the same. And I guess some of that is due to Minecraft's lighting engine being updated. Because, yeah, while smooth lighting did exist in, like, later versions of beta, even, like, the smooth lighting option looked drastically different to what today's smooth lighting looks like. And honestly, I'm not sure I prefer the new look. The shadows are much more harsh with the old lighting engine, and I think that plays very nicely against the older, more rough textures. It helps to create this contrast between areas of the game where when it's bright, it's very bright, or when it's dark, it is pitch black. I find the night in the old versions to be more anxiety-inducing than they are now. I mean, sure, yeah, the mobs do hit harder, and you have less combat options to fight them off, but a lot of that is just the, like, eerie, still darkness of the night that almost makes me feel like I really am out in the middle of the wilderness, standing alone, with God knows what lurking in the darkness. Unlike the eerie feeling that empty source maps give off, Minecraft gives off a different emptiness. There's a similarity to it that, like, anything could be lurking out there in the dark, but it feels less like I'm being stalked by something and more like I might happen across something that I shouldn't. Like when you're lost in the woods and you get this feeling like a wild animal could be around any corner ready to attack you. And maybe it's just because I keep myself apprised of all the new updates and things with each new version of Minecraft, but the new versions don't feel like that. They feel like anything out there I could take on. It's less like I'm worried there might be something out there, and more like I know something's out there and I know I can take it. You know? Regardless of how geared up I am. Because I've been in situations in 1.19 naked that would leave me cowering in my diamond boots in the beta versions. And yet somehow it manages to flip the other side of that coin too and be one of the most cozy games I've ever played. And I know this whole video has just primarily been direct comparison like this, but indulge me for a minute. Because the modern versions of the game feel like a nice hotel room. It's cozy, I'm comfortable, I can rest my head here, but it doesn't feel like this exists to be lived in. It feels like it exists as a passerby, a light amusement, whereas the old game feels like I've just stepped right into my childhood home. And maybe that's the nostalgia talking, but there's just a certain quaintness that even people who never experienced those versions of the game at the time have agreed with me on that just can't quite be translated for the modern game. I believe it's solely a difference of aesthetic, but it's probably partially my own nostalgia talking. And it's something I can't really seem to replicate in the modern game, no matter how I play. And I think that's what this video comes down to, really, is just me expressing my love for the beta version of the game, while not denouncing and dogging on the modern version. Because a lot of videos about beta Minecraft in the modern era talk about it as though new Minecraft has stabbed it in the throat and killed it, and made an infinitely worse product off its back, which I don't believe at all. For all the disparaging things I've said about modern Minecraft in this video, I still love it to death, and I still play it insanely regularly. And I don't want anybody to feel like I don't like the game as it is, because I enjoy the direction the game is headed, and assuming that more updates come in the future, it'll be a fine game. It's just not the same game that it used to be. And that's okay. Because the old versions are still available, and I can still pop open beta at any time and have a quick game. So I think that closes off this video nicely. I had a completely different video in mind this month, but the footage got completely eaten, and I decided, you know what, I think I'll just sit and talk about Minecraft for a minute, and that'll do me. So, if you did like it, be sure to drop a like. If you have thoughts that you want to share about modern or old Minecraft, drop them in the comments below. I'll be happy to read through them. You can find links to my other social media in the description, and with that, I'll see you next month.